confirmation. I know she.
It doesn't have to. The Democrats are stalling.
Uh-huh,
Schumer, even though he's not the head of the Senate anymore, he's still head of the Republicans in the Senate, and he
uh-huh.
rounds them up, like a herd, and has them do what he wants to do. So Schumer is the one mainly responsible for stalling and having it take a long time and all of that.
Okay, so they just want to delay, if
Yeah,
not
they just want to
refuse.
obstruct Trump. That's all.
Oh, yeah, but it's not a big deal. They will finally to get her approved. Big,
Hopefully,
yeah, because she is such an important person.
very, very
Yeah.
important.
All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is January 28th. Right now, the time is California time, 9:04 a.m. Here is our dear friend Tom. Tom, how are you? Hello, Tom.
Right. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. So nice to see you.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, Tom, I
great
have
to
to.
see you.
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you. Yes.
Okay, great.
Can
Thank
you
you.
hear me?
Yes, yes, great. Thank you.
Okay.
So I said I have to admit that this week is the most happiest week for a long time for me. It's a great week.
Right.
So we see the Trump administration already have done so much within a week, so
Right.
much, and people just saying this. It's like more than for Biden administration 4 years that the Trump administration has done. So, can you share us what impressed you the most for he has done within a week? One or
I
two
think the
things.
fact that he's trying to accomplish everything he said he was going to do.
Hmm.
So everything from J6 pardons to going to the states like California, North Carolina,
Hmm.
where it can be argued that the government did a terrible job, which
Hmm.
means in North Carolina, FEMA,
Hmm.
you had reports at the time that FEMA, if they went past a house that had a Trump sign in front, they wouldn't help them.
Right.
And then in California, you just have, the government of Gavin Newsom, the mayor who's terrible. She's a Marxist. So you have all of these factors there
Hmm.
that terrible government, incompetent or Marxist or they don't care if things don't work, and you have everything, the perfect storm of incompetent government or bad ideology, from
Hmm.
DEI to just other Marxist ideas.
Hmm. So, what do you think about something happened yesterday about the illegal immigrant? The Colombia refused to accept the illegal immigrants from their country. And yeah, so what do you think about that action? It's very
I think
dramatic,
that's fine.
right?
I think, Colombia, over the years, we have spent billions of dollars in Colombia to try to eliminate the terrorist organized crime group that was operating there.
Hmm.
And just we spent billions. In fact, I think it was called Colombia back when I was still in the FBI.
Hmm.
Just lots of money, and we had FBI agents in Bogota, and the military was there, DEA, FBI, other agencies, and yet, they go ahead and back a Marxist government. And
Hmm.
so you have Trump saying, okay, we're bringing your worst criminals back that you dumped into our country.
Hmm.
And their government prime minister, oh, no, we're not going to take your plane cannot land here.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, no problem. We'll just introduce tariffs and they will
Hmm.
increase every month until you accept them. Oh, never mind, never mind. We'll take them.
Take it. Yeah.
And so it's just a simple matter of, I think they were used to the fact that under Biden, they could threaten, we're not going to take them, we're not going to this, we're not, oh, okay, okay, we accept that. And under
Right.
Trump is like, okay, then you can accept our tariffs. And then you
Hmm.
have morons like Ocasio-Cortez saying, the price of coffee is going to go up if we
Hmm. You're
punish
right.
Colombia.
They said so.
Well, how stupid is she? We get most of our imported coffee from Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
not from Colombia. And
Mm-hmm.
if it goes up, a small amount, so what?
Mm-hmm.
So, so he could just keep putting tariffs, he can keep threatening them. And
Okay.
we've seen that. We saw that a couple of years ago in his first term with MS-13,
Mm-hmm.
the criminal group from El Salvador. And Trump said, we're sending them back. We're not keeping them. Even then, we're not accepting them.
Mm-hmm.
And MS-13 had a change in their prime minister,
Mm-hmm.
and they cracked down. So they've put MS-13 in prison with extremely harsh conditions and said, we're not going to tolerate you anymore and
Mm-hmm.
your criminal activity in South America or in North America. Too
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then later it comes out that their crime rate went extremely low there. It's been a very successful program, and the people back the government there very much for
Mm-hmm.
punishing MS-13 and not letting them get stronger and more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have this with other groups and other countries. And I just think it's unbelievable that these countries, from what they've seen already, if they think they're going to bluff Trump
Mm-hmm.
or convince Trump to back off and don't hurt our criminals, they got to
Mm-hmm.
be kidding. And the same thing with our own politicians.
Mm-hmm.
Governor Pritzker in Illinois and some of these governors in New England.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're not going to cooperate. Oh, you're not going to take, we're going to protect our residents.
Mm-hmm.
They're not citizens, they're criminals, and they're going to protect these criminals. And
Mm-hmm.
Trump is like, no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Homan, no, you're not going to, you protect them all you want, and we're going to come after you.
Right.
Oh, never mind. They
Right.
back off. So I think that the fact that these governments, both in the US and neighbors, that
Mm-hmm.
try to bluff Trump,
Mm-hmm.
I think pretty soon they get an awakening of, well, maybe we better not.
Yeah. So
Trump's
this.
got all the cards, he's got all the tools, he has all the weapons.
Mhm.
We better not threaten him and bluff too much.
Yep, yep. So it's so happy when I saw that. It's just like American power is back. And just like I think White House has a statement said American get back our respect from the other countries. We should for a long time. And this is such an encouragement for us
And
to,
the problem was that Biden could care less.
yeah.
I don't know what he knew. I don't know the degree of his dementia is probably way more than we realize. And
Mhm.
so he became a puppet of the neocons, the Jake Sullivans and the Blinkens and some of these other guys, and military industrial complex that as long as Biden would keep fighting wars, they would keep making profit, which
Mhm.
is what they want, what they only care about.
Mhm.
So I think that they've gotten an awakening in a week's time
Mhm.
that Trump is not Biden, and he's not going to do what Biden did. He's not going to, kowtow to them and do what they want out of fear and all that. No, it's
Mhm.
not going to happen.
Right. And I noticed, Tom, that a Chinese government said after the Colombia incident happened, and they said, willing to accept a Chinese citizen which illegally entered to the States. So they just show their cooperation on this matter, which is good.
Right, because their economy is faltering in the last couple of years as well. And
Hmm.
so the idea that we would put additional tariffs on them, which Trump has done in the past.
Hmm.
So when Trump says this stuff, they know he's not bluffing.
Right,
He's going to do it. And if he does it, it's going to hurt us.
right, right.
So all of a sudden now they're going, okay, okay, don't do that.
Yeah. So before we go to another topic, we have two, three other topics, and we have a lot to talk today. I'd like to introduce everyone here. Tom, my dear friend, he worked in FBI for almost 30 years, and for 5 years, he worked as assistant director of FBI. Right now, he's retired. And thank you so much, Tom, for spending time with us.
Thank
And
you.
sure, as you mentioned that Speaker Johnson talked to a reporter and told her that he believed that Biden actually didn't know what he signed. So this is big to me. because first of all, Biden's the president, was the president of the United States. Second, the speaker talked to the world that Biden didn't know what he signed. What's that mean?
That means that Biden's dementia is actually way worse than anybody would admit. Not just Biden, but all of Democratic Party. So you have leaders like Schumer in the Senate, Pelosi
Mhm,
in the House when she was still Speaker of the House, excuse me,
mhm.
um, basically saying, "Oh no, Biden is sharp as can be.
Yeah, they all.
He's as cognizant, of what's going on as he was three, 4 years ago." Well, the irony of that is he wasn't all that bright 3, 4 years ago, or 10 or 20 years ago. So
Mhm,
many people that dealt with Biden knew that
mhm,
he was not a smart guy. And
mhm,
then you combine Biden's ignorance and incompetence, and then add to that the degree of corruption. And I think that what Biden got away with is just that who could believe that he was running, as demented as he seemed, he was still running a tremendous crime family styled
mhm,
after the mafia,
mhm,
and that his whole family was getting rich. He was taking in all of this money, and
mhm,
nobody, especially Democrats, they would rather have a crooked Joe Biden than an honest Trump or an honest Republican or a conservative. So I think that they've now been made to look like idiots. So I think when Schumer gets up in front of a microphone, he has no credibility. People
mhm,
look at him like, you must be as big a crook as Biden. Pelosi, the same thing. How rich did she get as
mhm,
Speaker of the House with all of her illegal inside stock trading?
mhm,
So that's the difference, is that Trump, they threaten with Trump with, we're not going to let you do this, or we're going to impeach you, or and Trump is like, okay, you've hit me with your best shot. Almost reminds me of a Rocky movie.
mhm,
The Democrats are punching Trump
mhm,
left and right,
mhm,
his prosecutions and lawfare and impeachments and you name it. And Trump, he's like Rocky. Is that all you got? Is that all you got? And you know what? It's not. And the interesting thing, you remember how long ago I said the Democrats were stupid because they waited too long
Yeah, right.
and
I
delayed too much this lawfare.
mhm,
And so they didn't get the issues settled that needed to be before the election.
mhm,
And, it's their own stupidity of not understanding the system, the
mhm,
legal system, to know that complex issues where they're stretching the Constitution or completely violating it, then that has to go possibly all the way to the Supreme Court to be
mhm,
decided.
right,
And everything from trying to keep Trump off the ballots, that took months.
right.
Things like that took time.
Mhm,
And they didn't leave themselves enough time. And so now all of the prosecutions have failed, have imploded because they were too stupid in how they went about it. So maybe if they would have started a year earlier, they
mhm,
might have had better results.
right, right.
But too bad for them being ignorant.
Sure. Yeah. So, Tom, you know what? The more I'm thinking about the Biden situation, the more I'm just scared. Because think about that. We have what is named the president who is in he's in coma for 15 months and his wife took over. What is his name?
Oh, President Wilson,
Yeah, Wilson. Yeah.
after the
That
First
happened.
World War, he had a stroke.
A
He was
stroke. Yeah.
incapacitated.
Right, right,
And his wife, I think Edith was her first name, she
right,
basically took over. So she set up a system
right,
where he would not meet face to face, even members of his own party, even
right.
members of Congress. She was the go-between. So they had to deal with her. And this went on for a year and a half. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a
Like
few days until the election. It was a year and a half
18 months.
that we did not have a functioning president.
Right.
We
So
had a
that,
functioning wife acting like a president, which
right.
is which some people were claiming is what Jill Biden was trying to do. Oh, if my husband can't do it, so you see pictures of her sitting at the table in meetings. She
Mm-hmm.
wasn't an elected official of the U.S. government. She had no
Right.
business sitting at cabinet meetings or any of
Right.
that where government operations were being discussed or deliberated. She had no business and did
Sure.
it anyway. And everybody, oh, isn't that cute? Call her Dr. Don't call her Jill, call her Dr. Biden.
Well, so this is the problem when American people know that Wilson cannot work and his wife took over. When do we know that? During the time we know that, or after his presidency, people start to learn that for 18 months his wife took over. Do you know
I,
when
I
people
think it was
know?
more afterward. They didn't have the White House press corps. They didn't have all these podcasts and
Mhm,
social media or any of that.
mhm,
So when she set herself up as spokesman, she's not on, there's no television, there's no radio. So there's no national media other than newspapers,
mhm.
and nobody wanted to believe it.
Right,
And if we had that same lack of technology today, it would be even worse. Even with the technology, we
right.
could not get the truth out. NBC and CBS and ABC, particularly, hiding the truth from the
Mhm.
people and getting away with it.
Sure.
And that's with our modern media. So you can imagine in 1916,
Mhm.
nobody knew and nobody was gonna know.
Right. And then it's 100 years ago. So that's
Just
fine.
like a short time later, they
Right.
hid Roosevelt's polio. The media wouldn't show him in a wheelchair. They wouldn't show
Mhm.
him where he couldn't stand up. So
Right.
they tried to fool the media with that for a long time and
Right.
did. Got away with it.
So let's talk about the law because the law matters. So his wife took over his presidency. This is illegal, or this is a criminal. If it is illegal or criminal, why she get no punishment? Nobody cares, or what happened?
The politics at the time, I think that they didn't realize how bad Wilson was or how much power she was taking away from the president. And
Okay.
so they just thought, oh, she's a loving wife trying to protect her husband. No, she's a wife like Jill Biden trying to stay in power. That's all. They
Okay.
wanted to keep the perks of, and in those days, just imagine, no Air Force One, no, none of those perks that we
Mhm.
see today for the president.
Sure.
Uh, so Jill Biden, what she was able to do, go back and forth to France, come back for a day or two, then go back to France, back last summer or 2 summers ago. All the things that she took big advantage of
Mhm.
having Air Force One at her disposal.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they didn't even have Air Force One or Air Force anything
Right.
in 1916.
Yeah, right, right. So right now we're talking about year 2020 to 2024. And that's the one thing. Second is Biden cannot perform as a president. So third, who took of his responsibility? If it is from his wife. So his wife is illegal, so doing the illegal thing. Also, is a criminal. You basically steal the American presidency. Do you think Republic will
Well,
investigate?
who was going to enforce that? Who was going to do anything? Merrick Garland,
What
crooked
right
and
now?
incompetent as he was. So,
Of course
so they were able to get away with everything they wanted.
uh-huh.
And people like Blinken and Jake Sullivan and a few others, the deep state,
Uh-huh.
they were keeping the policies going that made a lot of people rich in Washington.
Right,
All of
right.
this stuff, we're going to give all these billions to Ukraine. Well, then what they're really doing is saying, we're going to spend these billions on American
Uh-huh.
munitions and weapons and equipment for war.
Uh-huh.
And who's going to complain then?
Yeah. Well,
The
of course.
military? No. The companies, the deep state, the military industrial? No, nobody's going to complain if they're making money.
Right,
And they got
right.
away with it. And then they took advantage of the Republicans, some of them just being completely stupid,
Mm-hmm.
like Lindsey Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we need to fight. We need to give all these billions to Ukraine to fight Russia. Well, we didn't need to. And they're just trying to take advantage of the fact that in 2014, we overthrew, typical CIA over many years, we overthrew the government of Ukraine that was elected
Mm-hmm.
in favor of appointees who were weak, and then a couple down the line, like Zelensky.
Mm-hmm.
And then Zelensky is a little pipsqueak that
Mm-hmm.
wanted the power and took advantage of it. And then
Right.
we back him. And then he plays like he's a movie star. He
Mm-hmm.
wears these military style sweaters and dresses like he's in
Mm-hmm.
combat boots, everything, and everybody, oh, look at him. He's a patriot. He's ready for war on behalf of his country. Meantime, he's siphoning off out of the billions we sent them. He takes millions, builds houses with it, takes advantage of it to personally become richer.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says anything about that.
Right.
So no, it's we've had a period now that Trump has been talking about. Trump has been observing how crooked the Democrats are.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody really wanted to believe. And now the more and more they learn, the more truth they realize is true.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. So, my question is, right now, the speaker already told the truth. Do you think the Democrats should investigate about the presidency at Biden's time? Who is taking care of him? Who signed for him? Or who make the real decision for the United States? Do you think it worth to investigate?
I think so, because you don't want this to ever happen again. Even
Sure.
though it happened in 1916,
Hmm.
you didn't have the technology, the media,
Hmm. Right.
television,
Right.
even radio. You had none of that.
Yeah, right.
So, but for them to pull this off today,
Hmm.
then yeah, we need to have a truthful investigation of it. Just like Johnson, Speaker of the House, has proposed a new J6 committee that's a
Right.
real committee, not a
Right.
sham, not crooked, not
Hmm.
being run by, you know, you name it,
Hmm.
Republicans pretending like, or yeah, Republicans pretending like they're Democrats,
Hmm.
and they're scared to death of this.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I remember President Trump just said that the J6 committee has destroyed everything, everything. So the action itself is criminal, it's a felony. It's enough
Right,
to put them into jail
right.
just because of they did that.
No, and that's why Biden went ahead and issued a preemptive pardon to everybody on the J6
Yeah.
committee, to Liz Cheney,
Mhm.
Kinzinger, Benny Thompson, you name it,
Yep.
because he knew, or at least his staff knew, they
Hmm.
were crooked.
Hmm.
That they ran that committee. It was an illegal committee.
Hmm.
And then the extra shame of that is they used that committee and pretended like, oh, this is official government business, which was a sham. But they used the veil of that being official to be able to imprison people like Navarro and
Right.
Bannon and others that didn't want to testify. And uh, and then all the records that show Trump being innocent, oh, we can't find him. Oh, we accidentally deleted him. All of this kind of stuff. It's all a lie.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
all a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Since you mentioned Bannon, Bannon and Elon Musk has some argument, right? Or Bannon just say something bad about Elon. What do you think about the Bannon? Something wrong between
Yeah,
them,
I
or
don't know. I don't know how much behind the scenes is really going on. I think that that Bannon, to a certain extent, thinks that maybe Trump is giving too much credence to what Elon Musk says. And therefore, if Elon says it, it must be true and all of that. So I don't know. We're gonna see more
yeah,
later about that.
sure. Yeah, it's interesting dynamic there. And still, we're talking about American presidency. So if Biden's presidency proved by the investigation that it's not real, it's a fake presidency, um, people are talking about the third term, the possibility of Trump. What do you think about this thought, at least?
No, I don't think that's not going to happen. So I think I think it's more of what Trump likes to do is get people thinking, what? You can't do that. What? And
Mhm.
he's okay. I can. Okay, I can. Whatever
Mhm,
you say.
mhm.
But it
Okay.
gets people thinking. And I think that, one of the things that Trump has going for him that Biden did not is that Biden picked a complete moron for vice president. DEI, is she
Uh-huh.
black? Is she Indian? Is she this? Is she that? Well, she is stupid. So
Mhm.
that part, for
It's
sure. But in the case of Trump picking JD Vance,
mhm.
I think Vance, you know,
Yeah.
is more brilliant than Trump.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
down the road, if they think they're going to take Trump out and put Vance in, they will really regret that.
Hmm.
And as successful of a presidency that we really should be expecting under Trump,
Hmm.
Vance could follow him for
Right.
8 straight years,
Right.
and then we have Trump Vance for 12 years.
Hmm.
And right now, there's nobody competitive with Vance. There's
Hmm.
nobody as smart. There's nobody as sharp on his feet or any of that. You look at the interview this past weekend,
Yeah.
Margaret Brennan from CBS.
It's a wonderful one.
It's terrific because she goes, she thinks she's going to get Vance. Well,
Right.
he twists her into a pretzel
I
and makes her
know.
look like an idiot, which she is.
She is. Yeah.
So, way to go, Vance. Chalk one up. Every time Vance gets interviewed by one of these liberal media people,
Hmm.
he tears them up.
Right.
He makes them appear to be the
Hmm.
idiots they really are, or
Exactly.
the partisans, or who they really are is incompetent and will
Hmm.
do anything to get at Trump or Trump's team or
Hmm.
Trump and Vance or any of that. And
Hmm.
they can't hold a candle to Vance. Vance is so smart,
I
he can
know.
run circles around them and they don't even realize it.
Exactly. Exactly. One thing catch me is these reporters, why they don't learn from their mistake or why they don't learn from the other reporter's mistake. They know that Vance is really smart. Then why just Margaret try give
Because of
him
their own
again?
ego. They have egos that tell them, well, she might not have been able to do a good job against Vance,
But I
but
can.
I'm smarter. I'm better. I'm different. I'll get him. I'll make him look stupid. And the more they try, it's like the movie Gladiator. The more these idiots go up against Vance, the more of them end up on the floor, dead, politically anyway. So so you'd think they would learn their lesson, and they continue to not learn it.
Yeah. So that's very interesting to see
Yeah,
happen. Yeah. So we're talking about Greenland and Panama. It seems like American might get them. What do you think?
might. You start with Panama
Hmm.
and Trump, even while they were having the funeral of Jimmy Carter,
Hmm.
Trump points out that Carter gave away the Panama Canal at the
Hmm.
time to Panama, and that
Hmm.
it was the US that spent all the money and
Hmm.
all of the people getting malaria and dying to
Hmm.
build the canal, plus accidents when the mudslides fell on them, that
Right.
type of thing. And basically, Trump's saying this was a U.S. project. We
Yeah.
paid for it in money and blood
Hmm.
at the time, blood
Hmm.
and treasure.
Right.
And Carter, during his presidency, had no business giving it away and
Hmm.
telling Panama, okay, it's all yours. And
Hmm.
then what happens to Panama? They
Hmm.
give away a couple of the locks, and you need the whole system to China.
Hmm.
And so now
Right.
you have China. We built that canal as a matter of national security. So our ships, especially military ships or commerce, did not have to sail around the dangerous waters of South America
Hmm.
and could cut that trip, more
Right.
than half by going through Panama from the
Hmm.
Atlantic to the Pacific or vice versa.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden now we give it away, or maybe we sold it for $1, something stupid. And then Panama basically lets China take over. Well, if you have 10 locks and two of them are Chinese, then essentially they control the whole canal.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, they let China take over basically and dictate
Hmm.
and control the pricing. Who makes what money for what
Hmm.
it costs to sail those ships, even though
Hmm.
we built it.
Hmm.
So basically, Trump is saying, you took severe advantage
Hmm.
of our president at the time, and he didn't want to completely call Carter bad names
Hmm.
while he's in funeral,
Hmm.
but basically he did. We
Hmm.
should have never done that, meaning Carter should never have done the
Right.
giveaway of the Panama Canal to Panama.
Right.
And so now, what Trump and MAGA people are saying is, okay, that should not have happened. We
Hmm.
should be able to take it back.
Sure.
You had no business losing it
Hmm.
to China or Panama or anybody.
Hmm.
Maybe it's time we take it back.
Right. Right.
And just that alone, now what are these countries going to do about it? Not much.
Hmm.
So
But
we'll see. Then you have, Greenland
right.
is it's theoretically independent, but it's under Denmark's management.
Hmm.
And Denmark is basically, I guess, not too hands-on. They kind of let Greenland flounder or whatever.
Yeah.
And the small population of Greenland are basically saying, we don't feel like we're well taken care of
Hmm.
by Denmark.
Hmm.
And, maybe we'd like to have a discussion with
Hmm.
Trump
Hmm.
and see, would it be better if
Hmm.
Denmark let Greenland be an independent country,
Hmm.
not under the complete control of the United States, but be an independent partner
Hmm.
of the U.S.
Hmm.
And then especially with the issues of national security in the
Hmm.
North Atlantic and Arctic Circle,
Hmm.
all of the Russian ships sailing around that area, even
Hmm.
Chinese ships. So I
Hmm.
think that we'll see what happens with Greenland, but I wouldn't rule it out that Trump will be successful.
Hmm. So, Tom, what's the background for Jimmy Carter to give to Panama to Panama government, give the canal to the park? Why he did that?
I think possibly he's just a weak president and wanted everybody to think he's great and a nice guy and globalist and we're all going to get along and be partners and all that. And China, they look at that like, how stupid can you be? Now, Panama is basically a corrupt government, so if they can get theoretically for $1 or two, and I say theoretically because it looks like they're going to control the Panama Canal, but in
Hmm.
reality, they
Hmm.
let China in so they can get crooked money from China, and then China takes over. And at
Hmm.
a certain point, now Trump is one of the few people in the whole government that's ever said, we're not going to let people other governments take advantage of us.
Of course.
So if they think they're going, we're going to fight back.
Right, right. So we'll see. Hopefully that we can get back to Panama Canal, which is so important to American. Um,
Interestingly, the Panama Canal is more or less outdated because it's not that big. And they've had droughts in Panama where they don't have enough water to
okay.
raise the locks so the ships
Yeah.
can move up and down. And I think
Mhm.
that it's not big enough to accommodate our aircraft carriers or our largest oil ships. Some of the
Uh,
biggest ships in the world don't fit, can't go through the canal. So it's
oh,
almost more symbolic than actual.
I see.
So, from a military standpoint,
Uh-huh.
we're able to fly anywhere in the world we want. We don't
Right,
necessarily need battleships are pretty much outdated now anyway as
right.
weapons of war.
Yeah.
Aircraft carriers, the idea of an aircraft carrier moving through the canal to
Hmm.
put all of those, 150 airplanes on
Hmm.
the other side. Um,
I
do we
see.
really need that? Because we have those airplanes all over the world.
Right, right. Symbolic. Yeah, but that's very important though.
It's more symbolic, I think. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And talking about the big news about the Kennedy assassination information release and also Martin Luther King. People are so excited about to see this document that we've been waiting there for so long. So do you mind that we talk about that what we already know about Kennedy's assassination? What we already know about Martin Luther King's assassination, and what about something that questionable about these two cases?
Well, in the case of Kennedy, I think most scholars that have studied this in detail that aren't part of the deep state, that aren't, spokespersons for the CIA, but most of the real Kennedy scholars have looked at this and said, in many of their esteemed opinions, they don't believe Oswald even fired a shot at Kennedy, that
Oh.
he didn't even fire a bullet, that he was a complete patsy, and that they had assassination teams set up in all around Dealey Plaza in Dallas to
Mhm.
make sure that they could kill Kennedy. And I think that the documentation of the CIA, how badly they wanted Kennedy gone,
Mhm.
um, they felt that he was too cooperative with the Soviet Union. He was starting to get along with Nikita Khrushchev. He was starting to talk like we should have peace. We don't need these constant wars and the Cold War and all that. And I
Mhm.
think that, that fueled a lot of what they're talking about. Now, the amount of studying that I've done on this issue, it's
Mhm.
almost amazing, the perfect storm that you have Kennedy, who do you want to pick first that he goes after, becomes an enemy with? Let's start with the American mafia, led
Mhm.
by the Chicago leader,
Mhm.
Giancana, and the leader in Florida and New Orleans,
Mhm.
Trafficante and Marcello. And they have one attempt after the other to kill Castro. They try to shoot him, they try to poison him, poison cigars, you name it, that
Mhm.
they keep going after. And what they don't realize is that they're compromised from within by guys like Trafficante, who was in charge of Tampa and Florida. Now, Trafficante and Marcello and Giancana, all of these guys as mafia bosses also had huge gambling operations in Havana. And they wanted to keep operating in Cuba the way
Okay.
they eventually operated in Las Vegas. And
Ah.
so that's what the issue was. They wanted to be able to open their casinos again. Now, what they didn't realize was Trafficante, the boss in Florida, they were having discussions on the phone, which were wiretapped mostly.
Mhm.
And in their discussions, they were basically saying that we're going to have to kill Castro to get control of the casinos to reopen them.
Mhm.
And what they didn't realize is the three of them, the three leaders,
Mhm.
thought that they could conspire together, hire the best assassins, set up the best plan, and kill Castro.
Mhm.
And what Giancana in Chicago and Marcello in New Orleans did not know was Trafficante behind their back was trying to tell Castro, I'll help keep you alive. I'll help sabotage these plots to get you. In exchange, let me reopen a casino in Havana later. And
Ah.
Castro, of course, oh, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. We're partners.
I
That's
see.
really
Okay.
good. And it
Okay.
was a complete lie.
Mhm.
So Trafficante sabotages one after the other attempt to kill Castro,
Mhm.
and Castro reneges. They
Mhm.
don't get anything out of that. So that was one series of plots to kill Castro. Then you have Kennedy saying, we're going to have peace in the future with the Soviet Union.
Mhm.
He's going to get along with Nikita Khrushchev.
Mhm.
And the military industrial complex back then, like today, is looking at this. Wait a minute. If we do that, and if Kennedy pulls our advisors, at the time we had 15 or 20,000 advisors in Vietnam, if
Mhm.
we pull them out and Kennedy decides we're never going into Vietnam, they're going to
Mhm.
lose $1 trillion.
Mhm.
Well, they can't have that. That's another reason that Kennedy has to be killed.
Mhm.
And so then you have Bobby Kennedy, Attorney General,
Mhm.
going after the mafia to prosecute them. He
Mhm.
hates them. And
Mhm.
that goes back on a promise made by Bobby Kennedy's father and JFK's father,
Mhm.
Joseph Kennedy,
Mhm.
that if they help elect um, Kennedy, then the Kennedys will go easy on the mob. They'll be able to go back in business, not have to worry.
Mhm.
And so Senior Kennedy promises that, and then they completely back off. Bobby Kennedy becomes Attorney General.
Uh,
Bobby Kennedy starts all these investigations to try to prosecute all of these guys.
ah,
And so they're having conversations with each other where the three bosses are trying to decide their strategy to defeat the attacks by Bobby Kennedy and the Department of Justice on the mafia.
mm-hmm,
And so they're thinking, well, we'll just have to kill Bobby.
mm-hmm,
And the other bosses say, no, 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 no. If you kill Bobby Kennedy, then the president's going to assign 25,000 agents to investigate us
mm-hmm,
to get to the bottom of his brother's murder.
mm-hmm,
If you kill the president,
mm-hmm,
then the day after, Bobby Kennedy is just one more unemployed lawyer in Washington.
mm-hmm,
That will solve our problem. So now you have another vote. Let's kill Kennedy. JFK,
mm-hmm,
because then Bobby will have no power, and Johnson will remove him,
mm-hmm,
and they'll have power again. So
mm-hmm,
you have all these separate reasons that JFK has to be murdered. And
mm-hmm,
one reason is as good as the next, whether it's the mafia, whether it's Cubans, whoever it might be,
mm-hmm,
the military industrial complex, all of these people, it all boils down to
mm-hmm,
money. They won't be able to make money as
mm-hmm,
long as Castro prevents them from having casinos in Cuba,
mm-hmm,
and as long as the military is not able to expand in Vietnam and
mm-hmm,
put more troops on the ground.
mm-hmm,
When JFK is killed, they're able to do all of those things. All those things can become true, except the casinos.
mm-hmm,
Fidel Castro reneged on that agreement, but the military was able to expand. So, in 63, when
mm-hmm,
Kennedy's killed, we have 15,000 advisors in Vietnam.
mm-hmm,
And the French and John Kennedy, JFK, was well aware because the French were telling him, look, in the 50s, we were controlling Vietnam and we couldn't do it. You
mm-hmm,
don't want to get stuck in Vietnam, stay out.
mm-hmm,
And JFK was pretty much realizing it was a no-win if we expanded from advisors to soldiers.
mm-hmm,
And he had issued a memo a couple of months before he was killed,
mm-hmm,
basically saying, by the end of 1964, we're going to pull all these advisors out. We're getting out of Vietnam. He
mm-hmm,
knew that it was just, quicksand, and that we were not going to be able to be successful. And
mm-hmm,
so another reason, kill JFK, take over the military, and Johnson then, the crook that he is,
mm-hmm,
he'll be able to be bribed, and we go from 15,000 advisors to within 2 or 3 years of 500,000 soldiers in Vietnam. It becomes $1 trillion operation.
mm-hmm,
So all of these things JFK did not want. So
mm-hmm,
you have the military wants it, the mafia wants it. All these people want all these things to happen, and basically that ends up what happened. What happens?
right. Well, one thing I think I'm not get very clear is about the mafia wants to kill Castro. So anything to do with JF Kennedy,
Now
they
they want at that time
hmm
in the early 1960s.
hmm
Castro comes in 1959. The
hmm
previous head of Cuba, excuse me, um, is a crook. But Castro comes in, takes over. They have the revolution, and
hmm
when he takes over, he shuts down all of the casinos, all mafia operations. At the end of 1959 into 1960, he
hmm
puts an end to the mafia's operations in Cuba. And
right.
so the idea is that they're going to be able to do all that over again.
hmm
If Kennedy is killed, they'll be able to reopen casinos, especially if they show Castro that they eliminated the assassination plots. They saved his life. And that Castro would be so grateful. He
hmm
promised them, you do this, you keep me alive, you
hmm
protect me, and I'll let you reopen your operations.
Uh-huh.
So, which was a lie. Castro did not do that. Even
Right.
after Kennedy was killed, they did not do that.
So it's something between the mafia and Castro. Kennedy play any role on this situation?
No, Kennedy, JFK, and Bobby were well aware that the mafia was trying to kill Castro. And at the
Okay.
time, what they're thinking is, well, that'll help us anyway. We don't like Castro. We would be
Sure.
happy if he was dead.
Sure.
And if the mafia is going to do it, great, great, let them do it.
Uh-huh.
It won't affect us.
So they did not do anything to stop mafia to try to kill Castro.
No,
So this is something between Castro and the mafia.
yeah,
Right. Okay. And then, so why then the mafia wants to kill Kennedy?
because that's a separate issue.
Hmm.
When JFK runs for president, the father, Joseph Kennedy,
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
goes to Giancana, the boss of Chicago,
Uh-huh.
and then separately from Castro, basically says, "Help my son get elected."
Right,
So
right,
they're
right.
very close.
Got it. So this is a separate issue though.
Separate issue.
Okay,
Get
good.
him elected,
Right.
and I'll guarantee you peace. You
Yeah.
won't have the federal government going after you, trying to
Right.
arrest everybody and put them
Right.
in jail. All that'll be over. So they do that. And in Chicago,
Right.
they fix the machines. All these illegal votes are cast on behalf of the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
And, the expression later,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a joke, but it's not so funny, is in Chicago, vote early, vote often.
Oh,
So at 6
both
a.m.
office.
when they turn the machines on early in the morning, they
Uh-huh.
would already have tens of thousands of votes
Uh-huh.
cast for Kennedy. They hadn't even the machines had not been on yet.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, um, that's why they help. And then
Right.
Bobby Kennedy and JFK renege on the promise to Joseph Kennedy
Right.
that they're going to lay off
Right.
and the mafia will be back in business.
Right. Right.
Now, then what happens is they violate a couple of mafia rules that are very important.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is whoever the boss of the particular family. So in Chicago, Sam Giancana was the boss of the Chicago Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the board of all of the mafia bosses in the country called the Commission. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why he's dealing directly with Marcello in New Orleans, Trafficante in Tampa. They're all commissioners of the mafia.
Right.
So, Kennedy promises, uh, the father,
Right.
Joseph Kennedy, promises Giancana,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have peace
Right. Right. Right.
because JFK will lay off of you in gratitude for
Right.
helping him become president. He
Mm-hmm.
won't go after you.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yep.
then what happens is JFK reneges. He
Mm-hmm.
appoints his own brother,
Right.
Bobby Kennedy, and Bobby was a zealot
Mm-hmm.
anti-mafia. He
Right.
was on commissions as advisor in the 1950s,
Mm-hmm.
going after mafia, going after Jimmy Hoffa, who was running the Teamsters Union at the time. All of
Right.
all of
Right.
these cases
Mm-hmm.
um, that Bobby Kennedy engineered against the mafia.
Right.
And so that's sin number one.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby gets appointed attorney general, and he's going after the mafia.
Right.
Sin number two, which may be the bigger sin,
Uh-huh.
is one of the rules in the mafia, and they don't have these written down in the law book, but one of the unwritten, most sacred rules is you do not mess around with the boss's wife and or girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the boss of these families married,
Mm-hmm.
typical,
Mm-hmm.
but they also had girlfriends.
Yeah. Right.
And so if you're a mob member, either in that family or
Mm-hmm.
another family, you do not mess around with the women in the boss's life, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's the wife or the
Sure.
girlfriend. Now, at
Mm-hmm.
that time, Giancana is dating a girl who had been a dancer in Las Vegas and in Tahoe. He was introduced to by Frank Sinatra,
Mm-hmm.
and Judith Campbell was her name. Later, she gets married and she becomes Judith Campbell Exner. So
Mm-hmm.
so Judith Campbell's a showgirl,
Mm-hmm.
and Sinatra introduces her to Kennedy,
Ah.
and JFK starts an affair with her. And so
Oh.
Judith Campbell is traveling to Washington and sleeping with JFK in the White House.
Oh.
Then spending the afternoon with him. And they, at the time, I can remember even as a young kid,
Mhm.
how does JFK stay so energetic? How is it? Well, he takes a nap every afternoon for health. It's a healthy nap and it rejuvenates him so he has more power for the rest of the day.
I
Well, the
see.
nap, what they said was,
Uh-huh.
yes, he napped in the afternoon in the White House,
Hmm.
but he wasn't alone.
Yep.
He was napping with Judith Campbell. And
Ah.
so she's sleeping with JFK in the
Hmm.
afternoon, flies
Sure.
back to Chicago, which is only an hour and a half,
Hmm.
and has dinner with Sam Giancana, back the
Hmm.
boss, back in Chicago.
She's pretty busy.
Very busy. So
Hmm.
Sam Giancana is aware that they reneged on the deal of hands off with the mafia, and
Hmm.
then I absolutely commit the biggest sin of all,
Yep.
having an affair with his girlfriend.
Yep.
And so anyway, there's discussions had between Giancana, Trafficante in Tampa, Marcello in New Orleans.
Hmm.
Now, just to give you an idea how much Bobby Kennedy hated the mafia and
Hmm.
how he makes sure that they hate him.
Hmm.
Bobby Kennedy wants to get rid of Carlos Marcello, the boss of New Orleans.
Hmm.
And so what they do, he's in a business suit and dress shoes, and they kidnap president, Bobby, kidnap him off the streets in New Orleans,
Mm.
fly him to the jungle of Guatemala, and turn him loose. And they basically think he's an old man. He's fat, and he can't survive in the
Hmm.
jungle.
Hmm.
Well, miraculously, Carlos Marcello, a short time later, he's back in New Orleans. How did he do that? So one of their pilots, they sent down mafia pilots, come get him. So they bring him back to New Orleans. So now you have the discussion between Marcello, Trafficante, and Giancana. What are we going to do about all these lies that they told us and what
Hmm.
they're doing against us, hurting our business,
Hmm.
everything? And so one of them suggests, well, we have to kill Bobby. He's terrible.
Right, right.
And I think it was Marcello that says, no, 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 no. If you kill the attorney general, next day the president will assign 30,000 FBI agents to investigate us
Right, right,
because of
right.
his brother being murdered.
Hmm.
If you kill the president,
Hmm. Then
the
it,
next day Bobby is another unemployed lawyer in
right,
Washington.
right, right,
And
right.
that's where that's so that becomes let's get the president. So now
Hmm.
you have the military realizing that Kennedy's issued an order in October of 63 to
Hmm.
pull out of it, get our advisors out.
Oh, yeah, right.
So they're not going to be able to make trillions of dollars because we're not sending
Hmm.
soldiers into Vietnam and
Hmm.
ships and planes and tanks and everything else.
Hmm.
So all of these rules that the Kennedys violate hurt the military,
Hmm.
hurt,
The
the
mafia.
mafia.
Right.
And so all of these different plotters decide, well, Kennedy's got to go.
Hmm.
He
Right.
has to
Well,
he has to be killed because we can't have this continue.
that is,
And that's where
uh-huh.
now the arguments come up. Oh, and separately, got
Hmm.
this very important. During the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1962,
Hmm.
CIA decides they're going to invade Cuba at the Bay of Pigs and they're going to take over, kill Castro, and then, Havana will be
Hmm.
free again.
Hmm.
And so what they don't realize is that their plan is being leaked to Castro by
Oh,
people that were in training in Florida
sure.
to attack.
Hmm.
And so they don't realize um, Alan Dulles, the head of the CIA at the time,
Hmm.
tells Kennedy, we don't need any help. Just in case, will you assign U.S. military if we get bogged down on the beaches at the Bay of Pigs to help us?
Hmm.
Kennedy says, no, no, no. No U.S. military. You said you could do this without the U.S. military. You said you've got these troops all well trained.
Hmm.
Everything is all set.
Hmm.
I can't have the rest of the world
Hmm.
look at the United States like we invaded Cuba or
Hmm.
helped in this invasion. So
Hmm.
you say you can do this without U.S. military help, then
Hmm.
do it.
Hmm.
Well, sure enough, the plans are leaked. The soldiers get captured on the beach or killed on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And they're begging Kennedy. Dulles and the others are begging Kennedy, please provide military assistance to these poor people on the beach. Kennedy
Mm-hmm.
said, I told you no, and I meant it. So he does not. So now
Mm-hmm.
you have the CIA,
Mm-hmm.
and then because the CIA had lied, Alan, uh, Alan Dulles had lied to JFK.
Mm-hmm.
JFK fires him and his top two assistants. And that was why he fired them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Kennedy says, I'm going to break the CIA up into 1,000 pieces,
Ah.
that he's had enough. And since the inception of the CIA in 1947,
Mm-hmm.
every president regretted how powerful they had become. From
Mm-hmm.
Truman, who signed the National Security Act of 1947, to Dwight Eisenhower, who later realized they were out of control, to JFK himself.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have the CIA hates
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy,
Right.
at least Allen Dulles, and then Kennedy fires Allen Dulles. So they
Right.
really hate him. So then
Mm-hmm.
you have, the CIA hates him, the military hates him, the mafia hates him. They're all against him.
Mm-hmm.
So that pretty much sealed his fate, that we're going to see who actually gets him. Could be any of them, all of them. We don't know.
Right.
And so
So,
that's why later people that have studied this for all these years
mm-hmm.
have said that in their opinion now, Oswald was not in the sixth floor depository.
Mm-hmm.
He did not pull the trigger. He is not one of the shooters.
Mm-hmm.
But there were military and CIA and others that were. So you had these assassination teams
Mm-hmm.
who were basically like a well-oiled machine. They had pulled assassinations off all over the world
Mm-hmm.
and,
Very
and
professional.
guaranteed overthrowing governments and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically, what happened with JFK.
Yeah.
Now, the fear is by the deep state
Mm-hmm.
that releasing the JFK files, the CIA files, is
Mm-hmm.
going to show that Oswald was a patsy, that he wasn't the shooter. He was set up to look like the shooter and take the fall and be
Mm-hmm.
arrested for it. But there was all these other factors that enter into it, from the mafia to the military to the CIA.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what's being now. Right now, JFK orders the release, and so those are being studied. Right, they're being analyzed right now for one last look, uh, making sure it's going to, not compromise the government too much
Mm-hmm.
if they release it.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and that's why the CIA screamed bloody murder uh, during the first administration of Trump, when Pompeo goes to the White House and said, "Don't release it, don't release it,"
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and Trump gives in. Well, now I think Trump realized they tricked him,
Mm-hmm.
and now they also realize that he's likely to not be intimidated, let's say, and
Mm-hmm.
that the files will be released. And then add to that all these years the accusations that
Mm-hmm.
Sirhan
Mm-hmm.
did not kill Bobby Kennedy, that the autopsy shows that the pistol bullet that killed Bobby was shot from behind in the back of his
Yeah.
neck,
Oh.
and that Sirhan was nowhere close to do that.
Oh.
Sirhan was shooting wildly in the room, but Sirhan didn't pull the trigger. And a number of scholars lately have gone, when he had his hearings, they went and testified on his behalf that they've studied the assassination and don't believe Sirhan did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this last round, I think 2, 3 years ago, when they had the hearings in court, and
Mm-hmm.
the court agreed, okay, release him. And Gavin Newsom prevented it. So what's his involvement in this thing? So
Oh,
so that's
really?
another issue. What was going on behind the scenes with
Uh-huh.
with that assassination of Bobby Kennedy? And a lot of people felt that Bobby was campaigning for president and doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
This was in June of 68,
Mm-hmm.
the election coming in November.
Mm-hmm.
And Bobby now has gone to the position of being the front runner in the Democratic Party. And during the campaign, he is promising to reopen the JFK files at that time, 1968.
I see.
So that pretty much guaranteed, a death warrant for him.
I see.
That the CIA was not going to allow Bobby Kennedy to make it to the White House.
I see. I see.
So that
Well,
was his thing, and then the other thing was the killing of Martin Luther King,
right.
James Earl Ray, and the idea that that was also a CIA assassination, deep
Hmm.
state to get Martin Luther King. So, so you have
Wow.
these three cases where the files have never been completely released, where
Hmm.
the investigations were obstructed, basically.
Hmm.
Um, and now, finally, Trump just says, okay, I've heard enough. You tricked
Hmm.
me in the first administration to
Hmm.
not release,
Hmm.
even though the law said I had to.
Hmm. Right.
So Trump violated the law, which said he
Hmm.
had to release those files.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
now you have Trump basically saying, that's it. I'll
Yeah.
have this commission, independent group, look at the files now
Hmm.
and make sure that they're all right. We're not giving up a deep secret that's going to jeopardize the United States security,
Hmm.
and that's where it's at. So we'll see within the next couple of weeks what
Hmm.
happens.
So it's not 100% release.
No, not to the public,
Okay.
not to all the scholars that have studied this thing since the
Mhm.
1960s.
Well, so we still have the top secret, which is not going to release to the public.
Yeah,
That is such an interesting story behind John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. It seems like their father made promise but not deliver the promise. So that's
yeah.
why they have some
But they
big
did. But they didn't kill the father.
right. Yeah,
They killed
exactly.
JFK.
You're right. You're right. Oh, we have so many people are leaving message and say hello. Just like last 4 years, we had functional Joe Biden, functional Joe Biden, Joe Biden. Um, let's see. Oh, Happy New Year. I think this audience say just Happy New Year. Trump should change the
Absolutely.
name.
Happy Chinese New Year.
Yeah, right. It's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yeah. Trump should change the name of Panama Canal to South American Canal, USA made. Made USA, right? People say that after so many years, the CIA's file about the three assassinations might already be tempered. What Tom think of that? So does that mean you just wonder if the files of the three assassination are still the original one or something already made some changes on the file?
Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
No, we don't know for sure. And I think that some of especially the JFK files have been so scrutinized all these years,
Mm-hmm.
not the files themselves, but the event
Mm-hmm.
that, I think it's scholars, I think, are going to be able to tell if the files have been doctored or edited or in some way
Mm-hmm.
to conceal what actually happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Don't
Lucy's.
forget at the time, right after the assassination, Johnson appoints the Warren Commission. Earl Warren was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and he
Mm-hmm.
puts Warren in charge of a small group of investigators that are
Mm-hmm.
going to look into this.
Mm-hmm.
And the advisor to that commission was Alan Dulles, who Kennedy had fired. And
Oh.
Dulles is the one that he screens out all these documents and interviews and other things from
Mm-hmm.
going into the Warren Commission that
Mm-hmm.
should have gone in, and he's able to prevent it. So Johnson puts him in the situation where he protects Johnson and everybody else, the deep state,
Mm-hmm.
by screening out material or interviews that shouldn't be
Yeah.
aired, shouldn't be public.
Not surprised. Not surprised. And then Lucy Scott said, uh, Robert Jr.'s confirmation hearing is scheduled at 10 a.m. this Wednesday. It's tomorrow. Um, please go to support him. Okay. Um, let's see. In addition to calling your own senators, please also contact the following priority senators today and politely request that they please vote yes on to confirm Bobby. Bill, he gave some name. Lucy gave some name. Bill at Louisiana Republic and Susan Republic. Susan Collins is always vote no to the nominees, and she haven't gave any yes so far. And Lisa
Yeah,
from
she's from a
Alaska.
very, very democratic state. So
Yeah.
they really can't, even though she's a rhino, they can't threaten her and say,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to primary you so that you can't get reelected as a senator. Now, Murkowski in Alaska is a different story.
Mm-hmm. She,
Murkowski,
uh-huh.
Alaska, Trump won Alaska by how many points?
Yeah.
Huge victory. And Murkowski consistently votes against Trump,
Yeah.
consistently obstructs Trump. So I think that she's more vulnerable if they want to go after her and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, when you're up for reelection, which I think is in 2 years, if
Mm-hmm.
that happens, we're going to go after you. And that's where Elon Musk has threatened
Mm-hmm.
many of the rhinos in the Republican Party by saying he'll use his personal money to go after the
Mm-hmm.
rhinos
Mm-hmm.
and primary them. Come
Yeah.
up with another Republican who's a more conservative, more
Mm-hmm.
loyal Republican and
Mm-hmm.
fund their campaign to defeat someone like Murkowski.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do. We cannot wait. And also McConnell. So he's so weird. McConnell. He's so weird. It's always against Trump's
Okay,
nom.
who is really in control of the Panama Canal? China.
Yeah. Right.
By controlling two locks,
Yeah.
you only have to control one lock out of 10 or 12
Yeah.
to control
Very
the
good
canal.
thing. Yeah.
Meantime, what made McConnell rich?
Mm-hmm.
People in Kentucky? No.
No.
His wife?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
his wife, Elaine Cho's father, runs
Yep.
a giant shipping company in China, which
Mm-hmm.
makes billions from the Chinese government.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that they could threaten McConnell they can't primary him or anything else. Now, if he steps aside, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But, McConnell has gotten rich from communist China
Mm-hmm.
through his wife, but that's where the money came. So that's why they can't stop him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's ironic that the state of Kentucky has probably one of the worst senators
Mm-hmm.
in McConnell and
Mm-hmm.
one of the best with Rand Paul, same
Mm-hmm.
state. So,
Yep. Yeah.
so that's interesting. So we'll see how that goes right now. If they can threaten
Yeah.
McConnell enough uh, that he's not going to continue this obstruction.
McConnell has just betrayed his state and betrayed this country for the money.
But he got rich.
Yeah. Ugly. Yes.
McConnell only, I'll give McConnell credit for one thing.
For one, yeah.
One thing.
Right,
He
right,
was he was in charge of the Senate
right.
when Obama, in the last year of Obama administration, nominated Merrick Garland to be a
Uh-huh.
Supreme Court justice.
Yep.
McConnell, the head of the Senate, then was supposed to assign that case to the Judiciary Committee to hold hearings on the nomination of Merrick Garland. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it. He refused.
Mm-hmm.
He would not assign that to the vote of the committee, and he would
Mm-hmm.
not put that up for a vote of the whole Senate. So McConnell, almost all by himself, prevented Merrick Garland from becoming a Supreme Court justice, which
Right.
would have been a lifetime appointment. And you imagine everything
Yeah.
we've seen Garland do during Biden. Imagine if he had that power on the Supreme Court for the rest of his life. So thank you, Mitch McConnell. In spite
Yeah.
of
For
all the other
that.
corrupt things you may have done, that
Yeah.
was one heroic thing that saved the country, I think.
That's right. That's right. Fair enough. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us your information and knowledge, especially about the Kennedy assassination, the background about that. It's so interesting and very important for us to understand what happened during that time.
I'd like to recommend a podcast to the viewers, which comes on twice a week, Tuesday evening, Friday evening, called America's Untold Stories. And it's
Cool.
hosted by Eric Hunley and Mark Gruber. And they have done extensive research. Gruber has done extensive research on the Kennedy assassination, reading hundreds of books, pamphlets, you name it.
Mhm,
Um, Very knowledgeable on that and many, many other issues.
mhm.
And I would recommend watch that podcast,
Sure.
America's Untold Stories.
All right. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I will put the link under our program so people can see that.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to know the stories. That's so important. This is lots of the untold story telling the truth.
Right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then
Okay.
another audience and just say hi and thank you to Tom. All
Hi.
right.
Hi, everybody. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And Happy New Year. And we'll see what kind of secret were released about Kennedy and Martin Luther King.
Yep. We should see.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Thank you,
Okay.
Tom. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care. Bye
Sure.
bye.